So to get straight to it, we've got it on pretty good authority that Tomáš Souček is going to be allowed to leave West Ham. Now, just to give it a little bit of context, earlier on the main channel, we produced a video, myself and Gio, which was recorded yesterday. And we were answering a question from one of our patrons to ask, basically, whether or not we should keep Tomáš Souček. So we did cover a lot of this stuff in there, but since we recorded that video, it's come to light that Graham Potter is ready to let Tomáš Souček go. So we probably could have answered those questions pretty quickly. It's a brave decision. I've got to say, a very, very brave decision by Graham Potter. Whether it's wise or whether it's a stupid decision, we're only going to find out next season at some point. And the reason I think it's a brave one is because Jarrod Bowen has been involved in 44% of West Ham's goals this season. So Bowen is either assists or gets a goal just under half the time. The next most productive player is Tomáš Souček. Tomáš Souček is the second best finisher at West Ham. And as I made the point in the previous video, it's teams that get relegated tend not to have a reliable forward goal scorer and a goal-scoring midfielder. You tend to be able to notch up enough goals, which over the course of a season will get you enough points, enough wins that you'll avoid relegation. So if your ultimate aim is to avoid relegation, I think it's a big risk to get rid of Tomáš Souček. If you're not thinking about relegation and actually you're thinking, oh, all I'm doing is aiming up, I'm going to change my style of football, then you're not going to perceive it as a risk. You're actually going to see, well, do you know what? I've got to get rid of Tomáš Souček so as we can make the next step forward, because whilst he's very effective in both boxes, what he's doing in the middle of the pitch is not conducive to the way that I, speaking on Graham Potter's behalf, the way that I want to play football. So we're going to get rid of him. Basically, Graham Potter's backing himself in this one. And I do think it's very, very brave. Now, I made my point in a video that I did with Gio, which has been live now over on the main channel if you want to go and check that out. I made my point there, and Gio made his point, and my point was I'd keep him around. I'd keep him around for those goals, but that is because I'm not confident about next season. I'm concerned about next season. Now, I love Soucek to bits. I think he's brilliant to have around the club. He just gets it. He understands. He's a converted Cockney, basically, and he might be from the Czech Republic, but he's a converted Cockney. He gets it. He understands it. He has, more than anyone else, bought into what it's like to play for West Ham, to be a hammer. He's like Fornals. He's like Ginger Pele. He's just like one of these guys that maybe he's not from East London. He's not from Essex, but he gets it. He understands it. So absolutely brilliant. I love that part of him. But it's not so much that. I mean, I love all those qualities about Soucek, but I still think it's time for him to leave. It is the very fact that I just think we are so reliant on his goals. And maybe we've got to wean ourselves off of that, which is clearly what Potter's thinking. And he's backing himself. Would I let Soucek go? No, I'd keep him around as a squad player if he'd be prepared to stay. But I sort of do admire Potter's confidence. Actually, I can do without this guy. That's quite good from Potter's point of view, at least. And I think if Potter's going to do it, if Potter's going to make that next step, he's probably going to have to, as I say, wean himself off of him. Sounds a bit wrong, doesn't it? Actually. Anyway, what is really, really clear here, and what's been made very clear to me, is that this is Potter's decision. Now, spoke to somebody at the club last week, and they very much said, well, no, Tomáš Souček could be way down the list of players that we would look to sell. We need to offload players, but Tomáš Souček is way down the list because he guarantees 5 to 10 goals a season. That was very much the view from the club. So as I understand it, there's almost like three things. Tomáš Souček wants to stay at West Ham and get a new deal. The club want him to stay, but don't want to give him a new deal yet because he's got 2 years left. And it seems Graham Potter wants him to leave, or wants to cash in on him. Clearly Potter's got no problem with him. I mean, he gets on with him very well. You could see, whilst he's announced that he's letting Soucek leave and he's letting Cresswell leave, it's not stopped him from picking those players. He likes them. He gets on with them. He thinks they're good players. They're just not going to fit what he wants to do. And I guess if you are Graham Potter, you're probably thinking, well, I'm getting a load of stick here. I'm getting a load of abuse here. And I'm getting so by not even doing what I want to do. I'm failing I'm failing without my players. So I guess he's probably thinking, look, if I'm going to get abused and I'm going to fail, I'm at least going to do it playing my way. And then clearly that's what he's doing with Tomáš Souček. But the club would keep him. So the club want to keep Souček. But ultimately, I think the club are trying not to, I say not get involved. They're going to try not to get involved. Tried not to get involved in the last transfer window, by the way. And still managed it with Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Crescencio Somerville. The rest was a carve-up, as you know, between Julian Lopetegui and Tim Stuyton. But, so they're just going to let Potter do what he wants to do. So he's going to cash in on him. I don't think we're going to get a lot of money, by the way. We're going to save some on wages. By the way, we're going to save a lot of wages with some of the players that are leaving. So, as I understand it, he is on about 75 grand a week. So, he's on decent money. And I think Everton are prepared to offer him closer to 100 grand a week. Leeds want him. And there's a really good reason Leeds want him, and that's because those 5 to 10 goals, as I've already mentioned, can be the difference between staying up and going back down. Everton want him. Don't need me to explain why. David Moyes is there. And again, could probably really, really make the case as to why they should get him. And I think ordinarily for a 30-year-old, the 15 to 20 million that we're going to get for him, particularly if you're looking more towards the 20 million end of the scale, looks like good money. That really does look like good money, doesn't it? For a 30-year-old at least. But actually, when you think, he's probably going to be running energetically like that until he's 33, 34. He's never going to lose his ability in either box. So actually, you don't buy a player like that necessarily for a return to think, I'll be able to sell him on in 4 years. It's not that. You're really paying for what he's going to give you, which is goals. It's going to be just such a huge overhaul next season, and we're really starting to see it. And I think this really does feel like the end of an era, doesn't it? He'd certainly be one of the players you would say symbolised David Moyes' time. Well, obviously his second stint, which is what we'll always ultimately remember Moyes for, his second stint, because the Conference League. But no one sort of epitomised and symbolised that quite like Tomáš Souček. I was thinking like he's not gone yet. This could not happen. Someone's still got to come in. Someone's still got to buy him. And I would imagine, ordinarily we'd wait until we got players in before we got Souček's replacement. But I don't think West Ham are going to be able to play it like that, really. I just don't think that's going to... Because one thing I've not heard the club come out and say yet is I've heard them say because of, we're close to the wire on FFP. I've heard them say that they're concerned we've got to sell before we can buy, that our drop in Premier League revenue because we're so low down and they budgeted for 8th, that's an issue. One thing I've not heard them say yet is that the season tickets are so low that's going to impact our spending. They haven't said it. I think that will be the case. How can it not be? Season ticket renewal is at least 10% down, and I'd imagine more. We're not going to get the figures out of them. Why would they? Why would they give over bad news like that? But look, if you'll have seen it yourself from the comments. You'll have known it yourself from your friends who've probably said they're giving up their season ticket. You've been on social media. It's rife, more so than any other year. So that's going to have an impact because that money gets banked very, very early, generally before we start spending money in the summer transfer window. So even just from cash flow, even if you think we probably are all right from FFP, just from cash flow, we don't have that immediate influx. So I'm not sure we're going to be able to get Souček's replacement in before we sell Souček. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes quite early in the window. I'll be sorry to see him go. I really, really will. I as you know, as I've said it repeatedly, I'm concerned about next season, and that's really what it boils down to. Do you, if you're willing to let, if you've decided in your mind you want to let Tomáš Souček go, then you're probably already thinking upwards. You're probably thinking upwards. You're probably looking up. We need to let him go so as we can progress upwards. If you want to keep Souček, then probably like me, you're probably looking downwards for next season. You're probably thinking, oh, well, hold on, I'm a bit worried about next season. And that ultimately, I do think, is the decision, isn't it? I think when it comes down to that, none of this stuff's black and white. None of this stuff's easy. But there you go. So off the press, I guess. Graham Potter he's not said it, but we've been informed, we've heard that Graham Potter is willing to sell Tomáš Souček. Has he been told he can go? I don't know. I don't know any of that stuff. I've just heard Graham Potter does not want to keep Tomáš Souček, or at least he's willing to sell him. He's willing to sell him to generate some funds, like with a lot of players, and there will be a lot. And there's going to be a lot of these videos, I think you'll find. And I do think we're going to be selling a lot of players, a lot of high-profile players that we know, and looking at some of the players we're linked with. I think we're going to be signing quite a few players we've possibly never heard of before. So, and I'm not against that, by the way, just so as you know. I'm not against that at all. If they turn out to be good, it's one thing West Ham need to do is our scouting needs to be good. We need to get some, I don't know, unpolished diamonds or whatever, hidden gems, whatever you want to call it. We're going to need to do some of that. There you go. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. Tomáš Souček leaving West Ham, it seems.